Okay, let's get started. I've got more stuff than we will have time to go over. I have a couple of announcements first. A couple of quick things. First off, there is now a shortcut or group or whatever you want to call it in your Outlook address book called Revit_managers, which sends things to myself and Bodley and Michael Hawks. So if you guys could start using that as a way to both request any Revit help, or if you see issues with families that we have that need to be changed, or if you create in-process families and add them to the Google Doc, that'll help me and the other two guys not have requests get buried underneath everything else in our inbox. Like, I have my inbox set up so that anything that gets sent to Revit managers specifically will go into its own folder, because I found that if I'm really busy and I get an email, I'll read it and then forget about it or forget to tag it or something. So if you guys could start using that as a way to track issues and make Revit requests, that would be super helpful. All right. All right. I have some seed model things that I want to go over. That's sort of like the things that we have more things to look at than we will have time. So I'll do that at the end of the meeting, and we'll get as far as we can with that. The other things that I wanted to mention, we had talked about call-out codes, and we have a system for those which interfaces with the spec library, and I have a sample output from that. And I wanted to get feedback from all of you guys as to whether what we have is going to work for you, whether we need to change it, or exactly what we want to do with it, and if it's going to work. So I'll show that stuff here in a few minutes. There's also been a change to the window families, and there have been some updates in the type catalog that I'm sure you've all seen the emails about. The only major thing that has changed with those, and I don't feel like it's necessary to bring up the families and show you, but the buck object, which used to be in there, has been removed because the factory doesn't need it, nobody's using it, and it sort of made our families more complicated. So that's been removed, as well as some of the hosting relationships have been changed because they used to be based off of that buck. So that stuff you don't really need to worry about. Let me know if something breaks in the windows, though, or if they look like they're hosting weird. So yeah, just know that I've been in there modifying things. And the other thing that has changed is now the trim, instead of hosting on the exterior face of the wall, is hosted so that the back of the siding is the same plane as the back of the trim, so that those are going to be coplanar in how they would actually be built. But the siding does not cut out, or the trim, sorry, does not cut out the siding in those instances, just because it would make the family really far more complicated than it needs to be in order for that to happen, especially with the ability to turn on and off the trim. So the only issue that we might have with that situation is if the siding is thicker than the trim, which I don't think we would ever have that situation, but if we do have that situation, then the trim would be hidden. So yeah, if that is the case, we'll have to do a modification, but yeah, those are the changes that happen to the window families. You generally don't have to worry about them, but like I said, I've been in there modifying things, and you guys know me, I tend to break things. So if something is broken, let me know that it's broken, and I'll go back in and fix it.
Hey, it's Kevin. Can we try to never have that situation where the siding is thicker than the trim?
I don't think we do have that situation, which is why I was sort of okay making the families in that way. But yeah, let me know if we ever do have that situation. But I think right now we don't.
Great. Thanks.
Okay, and the last announcement is about PSA details. Chris, did you want to help organize people in that effort. I think there's been a little bit of confusion about what work needs to be done and how to organize it, especially between all of the offices and multiple people working on it.
Yeah, so I guess just to break it up, I mean, we have PSA details that you draw for your projects, and then there's the standard PSA details that we're developing. And those are coming from Nocti. So she has a PSA book that has renderings of the options that she wants. And then we look at all the PSA details that we've done, and then develop details based on the renderings that Nocti is putting together. So the PSA details that you're developing for your projects aren't necessarily going to become standard details, so I don't want to tell you to stop drawing PSA details. But at this point, probably should stop bringing in all of your details into the in-process library file. Other than that, if you have PSA details that you think are standardized or should become a standard model, just give me a heads up that you have it, send it my way, and then I can either forward it to Nocti or the powers that be so that they can include it into the PSA book.
Where's that file? Or the file that you're working in, all of the standard ones?
That's in process. So Blue Library.
Oh, it's on the S drive.
No.
No, we put it up here, didn't we?
Yeah.
Oh, Blue Library, that's right. Okay. Yeah, so Chris is working in this file trying to standardize PSA details, and I know in the past when people have had free time, we've been trying to compile all of our project details that we've drawn on a project-by-project basis into this file in order to sort of look through what we have and pick out the most standard ones and work from those. And I think what Chris is saying is that we don't need to collect any more project-specific details in this file, that we sort of have enough to work with. So if you have something that you think should be placed into this file that we haven't used before, just talk to Chris, contact him. He's sort of organizing all of this. And yeah, make sure that you're not just throwing a bunch of stuff into this file, because it's getting to the point where it's being more complete and more organized, and if we have a bunch of hands in there moving things around, it gets hard to tell what's new, what's been looked at, what's been edited. So Chris is organizing that. If you have time and are working on these sorts of things or drawing PSA details, just check in with him before you start moving things in.
Yeah, and if there's a detail that you think is a standard that exists, just let me know. And then, because I know that, like for instance, this morning Andrew emailed me about a deck edge detail, which those are already in process. So there's the potential that it could already be in the file and already vetted. So just, yeah, give me a heads up.
Okay. I think those are all the general announcements. I want to talk about call-out codes with you guys and show you the work that has been done on those. And just as a reminder or a little bit of background, part of the idea of this effort of creating call-out codes for all of our different objects that we use is to sort of has two purposes. One, so that there's less work for designers to do on a per project basis, because all of these call-out codes would be defined in the family or in the type rather. So when you go to tag something in a view, it already has a call-out code associated with it, similar to the way that the doors and windows do, rather than the current process, as I understand it, is on all of our interior elevations going in and modifying the instance ID parameter and numbering things 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way through however many you had as a way to tag them and associate them with a particular interior elevation schedule. So less time on the designer end and more consistency between projects is what prompted all of this. And after a couple of rounds with a handful of people trying to figure out exactly how we should be naming things and organizing them and grouping them. We came up with a system that we organized with Laura and Josh using the part inventory. So in the part inventory right now, there's this call-out code, I think it's just called call-out, column. And so there is a 2-letter code, which is associated with, I think I have it hidden right now, but associated with the CSI for a particular object. So you can see these first 3 are CR Lawrence, and I think this is accessories, and so it gets the AC code. And then after the dash, there are 4 digits, and the 2 digits come from one place in the database and 2 come from another place in the database, and I'm not going to try to explain where those come from, but basically we need those 2 pieces of information in order to identify a particular spec. And it's a similar system for materials. So you can see for the countertop with a particular material associated with it, it's CO for countertop, and then the first 2 digits are, high max 1.5 inch thickness, and then the last 2 digits are whatever that particular finish is. So you can see all of these are 34 something or other because they use the same description or object, and then the last 2 are different because they use a different material finish. So the proposal is that this call-out code would replace the code that we're using on the interior elevation, and I'm in the seed model right now, and these things aren't tagged fully, but you can see, this probably looks familiar to everybody, where you have a tag which is reading the instance ID, and then the instance ID for this particular object, you go in there and you set, and then that lets you reference the object inside of a schedule. I see a couple of advantages to doing it that way, where I already talked about. So you can sort of ignore this middle portion right here. I was trying to give us 3 options, but the mark parameter, which Revit uses and automatically assigns to objects, isn't assigned to all different categories of objects, so I don't think this middle one is going to work for our purposes. But to compare and contrast the 2 options that we do have up here, our current process of using the instance ID, the advantages I see of doing it is that you can have a logical sequence of numbers where you number your elements within your view 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it gives you a really short call out. So you see in this one you just get the T. Disadvantages, you have to do it on a per project basis. There's no consistency in callouts between projects. I'm not sure if this is crucial for us. It may help procurement if there's consistency between things. They might start to recognize what a 3472 is, but I doubt designers are really going to see that many projects to be able to associate those things, at least not for a while. And right now, I don't think people are using the instance ID as a way of calling out the category, which I don't think they necessarily need to, because we can organize our schedules by that, by a different parameter rather than putting that inside of the instance ID parameter. The spreadsheet that I just showed you and those call-out codes, the advantages I think of doing it that way are we have a parameter value which is defined inside of the family, and so you don't have to do anything on a per project basis in order to tag those things and have them relate to a schedule. It does have a much longer call out, so instead of having a T, you have the 2 letters and then the dash and then the 4 numbers. And actually, I think I should probably put that in the disadvantages rather than the advantages column, because I think our interior elevations using those longer codes are going to get a little bit busier and possibly a little bit more muddied. And yeah, I flipped these around, so that should go up there, and this should probably go So, oh yeah, and then the other thing, the last disadvantage is that there's not a logical sequence of numbers. As you can see from the spreadsheet, 9504 doesn't mean anything by itself, and you're not going to have a sequence of things in your drawing. You'll have just, whichever of these you happen to have in there. So given those as our options for how to tag things inside of our projects, do you feel that the disadvantages of not having that logical sequence and having a longer callout code are so disadvantageous that they outweigh the advantages of having the consistency and not having to do the work per project?
Is it just going to be the text, or are we going to have an oval or a circle around it, or is it just going to be flying out there?
Sorry, say that again?
With the tag, is there going to be like a square around it, or instead of like the circle, since it's long?
I mean, we can make it however we want. I mean, the circle definitely doesn't make sense because it's going to be longer than it is tall, but exactly the graphic of that, we can make it look like however we want.
What about an rectangle?
Rounded rectangle.
Octagon.
Parallel.
Octagon. I think the general consensus here in Ann Arbor is that the call-out codes are a good idea.
Yeah, that was option 3. All project.
Kevin's for it. I mean, the logical.
You guys are okay with having a schedule that says CO 1972, FR 1267, like that? That's not too bothersome, or if it's a little bothersome, it doesn't matter all that much.
It rocks.
That's what the code is. Yep.
Love it.
It's still going to show up in the schedule as like a module.
Yeah.
It's just going to have another column that says mark or whatever, or call out.
Yeah.
I don't need to really pay attention to, which I guess is a good thing.
Yeah. Okay.
You just tag it and model schedule. Good.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I would rather do the work once and not have to do it on a per project basis. I just wanted to make sure that it's not going to be, and I'm glad you're on the line, Kevin, because you're the person who reviews these and gives the okay on how the drawings finally look. I think it's worthwhile to do it this way. I just wanted to get the final check from you guys before it's all implemented and we update all the families with this information.
Hey Luke, isn't it possible to put things in order anyway with sort of a hidden field using the mark or instance ID? I mean, you can still put things in a certain order on a schedule.
Yeah, certainly. And actually, because we already have the instance ID parameter in there, we could still use that as an ordering mechanism and just not use that in the callouts. Alternately, we could add an order parameter similar to the way that the sheet sets are ordered. It's basically that same sort of idea. But since we have instance ID and we've been using it and it's already in all of our schedules, I sort of want to just say keep using that as an ordering mechanism, but just don't use it as a call-out mechanism.
Yeah.
Doesn't that kind of undermine the whole point?
Well, it's just like in the schedule and the drawing, it might help to have it in a logical order. Like,
But then
well, you're already going to have it grouped by TSI, right, inherently, and then since the first two numbers are manufacturer-based, right, it's going to group those. So, it's, like your Toto toilet is going to be near the Toto push button and stuff. So, I think it might.
I'm not sure if those first two are manufacturer-based, but they are. I think the first two aren't manufacturer, so you may have to use a separate parameter to get everything bipolar grouped together. The first two. What's that?
Counterfeit letters are.
Oh, it's just kind of by coincidence that some of those are.
The letters are CSI.
Right, but it's going to...
Yeah, the letters are
it's
sort of a shortening
outsize
of
off of
CSI.
those,
Yeah.
right? And we're going to have the headers that give us the CSI, so it breaks it down into casework, plumbing fixtures, electrical fixtures, right?
Yeah. And the call-out codes will match with that.
Yeah.
So you can hide the CSI category in your schedule.
Sort.
Have the header.
Sort that way.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought we're not doing casework anymore. I don't have schedule on casework.
Okay, I don't know what happened there. It just sort of trailed off. But yeah, so the first two numbers, I talked to Josh this morning, and I think the first two numbers are a call out of a particular object, and then the last two numbers are the material of that object, which unfortunately doesn't matter for 95% of the things that we use, but there are a handful of items such as fireplaces and lighting fixtures where we want to call out something different based on a different finish or material of that thing. So the first two are object and the second two are material. And it's similar to the way the material callouts work, where the first two are object, I guess you could call them, or it's like material and finish for the materials, and it's object and finish for the objects, but it's a similar sort of system where you need all four to identify a unique thing. So yeah, so we would still need a separate way to group by manufacturer or whatever else you wanted to group by, but you can do that on an instance basis if you really want. Or you could group by first two digits of the call-out code if you didn't want to have the CSI inside of your schedule. Okay, but in general, it sounds like everybody is okay with this. If you're not okay with this and don't feel like speaking up against the tide, shoot me an email and give me good reasons why you don't agree with it. And basically, if I think you're making valid points, then I'll bring them up. And if you're just being contrarian, which
Hey, Luke, it's Carl. I can do both.
Hey,
What's that? I said I could do both, give feedback and be a contrarian. Is there a schedule on every page that describes what these things are?
a schedule on every page in the drawing set, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you might need it then.
Yeah. It doesn't explain what the code is. Like, I mean, the code sort of doesn't make sense, but we could have, like, we
What
could
does a contractor do?
There's a verbal description next to it, right?
Oh, yeah, I do address.
Flip the rest.
Yeah, there's a description field next to each of these callout codes which links the code to a description of the object. So we could have a schedule which looks like this. That would say, CO 3420. I think I have a hidden field, but it would say countertop. Description would be this, and material finish would be this. So all of this information could live on the drawing sheet.
Can you show me what a drawing looks like then? With this?
Sure. So here's my, I didn't input these codes into this drawing, but this was my shortcut of how all of the different schedules work inside of Revit. And I think the most relevant one on here is this material tag. So it says EX3. Here's an exterior material schedule which says EX3. This is generic because it's in the seed model, but this would say, cedar siding, whatever the reveal is, and then clear cedar over here.
But instead of EX3, it would say CA-4893 or something. Or something. Not exactly that. I didn't memorize them yet. I would be impressed. And would these numbers themselves be on the order so that we can look number to number?
Sorry, say that again, Kevin?
The order that is rolling out, that's replacing the STRF. Is it possible that these numbers are also on the order so that we can compare number to number? as we're checking our stuff?
That's a really good point. I don't know how the sales order is being generated. If they are using information from our part database as a way of filling out the order, then it will correlate because all of these numbers are stored in the parts database. But if they aren't, then we can't.
It'd be really cool if they did.
Yeah.
It would be really cool.
So you need to get together with Kay.
Okay. I will do so.
She's done in a number of various situations. She's told people in design what they need to do. So I would say, here's something that we're doing, and the order should probably follow suit.
Okay.
Like, not to be neat, but I don't think it's really a question.
Okay, yeah, and you would know better than I if I'm going to get pushed back on that, but I will bring it up
You're
with Kay.
absolutely going to get pushed back. Because it's more work for them, and they haven't thought about this yet. So they're not going to want to do it at all. What has Laura been involved in what the call-outs are?
Yeah, Laura and Josh and Jeremy have all helped me develop these.
Okay. So potentially we have a database, a spec database that's tied to all of these, and all of that's consistent. So at least within design, we're talking to one another.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, you can already see all of these codes. They're already integrated into the part database. I think Jeremy made a new release of BombGen and what it was pulling from the database, but he didn't want to say, hey, these call art codes are in here until I had a chance to show you this stuff. So yeah, if you run the generate component list function in Revit right now, the list that it spits out, all of these call out codes are already in there. And that's actually what this spreadsheet is. It's just an export of the component list from yesterday. Okay. So yeah, so what we'll have to do, we'll have to take these codes and update our families so that they have all of this call-out information in them. But once that update has been made and you load those families into your projects, I will load them in your projects. You should be able to use them. I will create tags that will read this specific parameter in all of those families. I think it's still going to be the call-out code parameter. But we might have to make a bigger box to accommodate for the 6 digits. But I will do that and send that out to you guys and let you know when everything's been incorporated back into the library. So for those of you that have flex time and you want to do copy and paste into families, let me know. I know you're excited. Okay. That's it on call-out codes. Thanks for your feedback. I'm glad we're all on the same page, and I will follow up with Kay about the sales order and incorporating it into that.
Get me involved. I know that's going to be a problem.
Okay, you can be the hammer. All right. In the rest of the time that we have, unless anybody has immediate issues that need to be addressed, I wanted to talk about some seed model process. So in the last week, we've had a couple more people start seed models. I know Kevin started a Lofthouse seed model based off of Higgins, and Youngju started a Breeze model, and like I said before, I don't remember which model she based it off of right now. But as we start building these, and as more people start building these, there's a couple of tricks that are coming out to make them easier. And Kevin and I worked through a couple of things yesterday, which for anybody who is making seed models, and maybe even for people working on current projects, are going to make things a lot easier in terms of moving things around and rotating them, and rotating project north and all of those sorts of things. The big ones that Kevin and I talked about yesterday is if you start off with a project model, it's placed at a particular location in space, and getting the model back to the 000 origin point of the project can be really difficult without this really simple trick. So previously, doing a huge select of a whole bunch of stuff and saying move and moving it somewhere or trying to rotate it, it'll give you a bunch of errors and hosting relationships get broken. So don't do that. The way that Kevin and I figured out, which is so elegant and simple, it's going to knock you off your feet. Let's see. So these two symbols, which are one right on top of the other, which some of you might be familiar with, there are the project base point and the survey point. And these sort of define your project location in 3D space. They can be moved independently of one another. What we want to deal with is the project base point. And right now I have it hidden, which is why I'm in the little pink screen. But you can see when you select the project base point, you get this little paper clip. And when it has the line through it, it means you can move it without moving anything in the model. It's sort of independent. And then if you click the paper clip, the line goes away, and that means that the base point is clipped to the model. That's their cute little symbol for it. You can also see that it gives you a readout of where you are in the north-south, where you are east-west, and where you are in terms of the elevation of your project. And you can see right now I have it in the very middle in both directions of the mod. And it's at an elevation of 10 feet, and it's at 0. If you were in a project model and you're trying to make a seed model from it, that project base point is going to be somewhere else, most likely. And you can see I moved it, and because I didn't have it clipped, it moved fine and nothing came with it. So to get your model to the 0, 0, 0 position using the project base point, select the base point, turn off the clip, move it to wherever that center is, and you may have to, draw lines either. Yeah, you can do it. You can do it in a drawing view. You don't have to do it in a 3D view where you can't draw detail lines. So you could go into your entry-level plan, draw some construction lines so that you get that point where you want it to sit, and then move the project base point to there. Looks like I missed it. You can also type. If you have the project base point selected, you can type into these fields and it'll move it for you, which is really nice. But then after you get that in the place that you want it in your mod, then you turn on the clip, and then you can say 0, 0, 0, 0. Because I'm already there, I'm going to show you something. Let's say I wanted to move it to 20. You see I just changed that. It moved my entire project over except for my survey point, which stays in the same spot. It also works in elevation. So if you're at 3,000 feet and you want to go to 0, 0, 0 as your elevation, which I think we decided is where we want to use as a starting point, you can do that as well. You can see, again, sometimes selecting it can be hard because as you zoom in, it doesn't make the object any bigger because it's not a physical object. So a lot of times what I'll do, and I think I've shown this to you before, is just do a big crossing select and use your filter and then just turn off everything except your project base point. And now you're only dealing with your project base point. So again, the clip works the same way in elevation. Make sure it's clipped. And then we want our project to be at 0. You move your project down. So it's, again, this is a common theme with Revit, and it's a little hard to get your head around, but pretend as if the house doesn't move at all and the world moves around the house. If you try moving a bunch of elements at once just because the way that Revit constrains things together and has hosting relationships, it doesn't work. So I would highly, highly recommend using this as a method. The other nice thing about having your project at 0, 0, 0 is that if you if you rotate your project north or you mirror your project, both of those commands always do the flipping about the 0, 0, 0 point or the rotating about the 0, 0, 0 point. So instead of rotating from out here and throwing your house way off into the middle of nowhere, it'll all rotate really nicely, and your house will stay inside of all of your views, and everything will be super happy. So thanks for working that out, Kevin. That's been a headache for a while.
I can't believe it was that easy.
I know. I know. Any questions about that?
Luke, how would that work if you changed the angle to true north? Would that rotate the whole project?
You know, I tried that, and it didn't, which sort of surprised me. It just, you know, it's pinned, or it's clipped right now, so I expected that to change your orientation to true north.
It did. It changed the compass in the top right.
Yeah, you're changing the
Oh, it's changing the true north. It's not changing the project north.
Right.
Right. So if you do it to the other one, yeah, you can't do it to the other one, but can you rotate? Yeah, and it doesn't give you the rotate tool for either one. So I think you can change. Yeah, you can change your true north using the project base point rotate, but you can't change your project north using.
Okay. Cool.
But you can just rotate your project through the,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Through there? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have to be in a view in order to do that. Yeah. So now it'll let me rotate project north.
Cool. Just wondering.
Yeah. No, that's a good question. I tried the same thing. Yeah, it still doesn't give me a rotate in here. Is this one going to give me a rotate?
When would you want to rotate your project?
You want to rotate your project north so that a drawing lays out nicely on the page. You don't want, you know, this to be 30 degrees off of axis in all of your drawings. So that's what the project north tool is used for.
It should be built. The product, whatever, should be built square and super page.
Yes. Yeah, and you probably know this, but you can set your orientation for a particular view to either project north or to true north. So in all of your site plans, you want to set it to true north, and in all of your floor plans, you set it to project north. So you can have the two different orientations of drawings. And I think because I'm working in the seed model, both the project north and the true north are set to the same place right now, but they can move independently of one another. All right. You know, I think I want to stop there for today. There's a couple of other things with regards to seed models, but they're not 100% worked out yet, and I don't want to jump into them and confuse you until they're worked out. But those are the big ones. For anybody who starts another seed model, I have a list of things to do to a project model to get it to a seed model state, and I'm getting feedback from people who are doing that right now in terms of what needs to be added to that list. So if you start one, then I will send you this, but as you work on them, if there's anything that I forgot or that needs to be added to the list so that the next time someone starts one, they'll have all of the information they need, just send it to me and I will add it.
If you ever started a job from scratch, has the project templates been updated or made new or made right? Or not? There used to be a project template that you started with?
Yeah, they have not. The families in there, the system families, should still be accurate, but I haven't loaded any of the new information from the seed models into that project template. And hopefully we'll get seed models up for everything fairly quickly, and we won't need to do that. Okay, guys. Are there any other issues we should talk about? We've got a few minutes left.
One thing, Luke, I loaded in the view templates from the seed model, and all of the phase filters in those view templates is set to like show all or show complete. Don't we want that to be just none?
I think, well, the way that I think the views are set up is that the phase for the views is set to the final phase, so show complete should be accurate, but yeah, I don't think we're using phase filtering generally as a method. So show complete or none either one should be okay.
Okay. I just run into sometimes like not with those specific view templates, just with show complete as the phase filter, it grays out certain things, but that might not happen anymore now that the phase for all views is the room's phase. So I haven't vetted it fully. I was just wondering.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't remember exactly the way the phase filters have their override set up and why it would gray something out. It might. Yeah.
You can set it up in phasing.
What's that?
It's just whatever the Revit default is right now. You can, if you go to phasing, you can like set up like show demo as half tone, show it as dash, stuff like that. But we don't have demos, so it's just weird.
I think the phases. I know I've seen that before. Yeah. So here's the graphic override. Yeah, so it looks like existing lines. Yeah, so here, yeah, we haven't messed around with this stuff at all. I don't think we really use it. If it would be helpful for something that you guys do as drawings, then we can be more specific about this. But if we do, yeah, show complete. Yeah, existing is by category, new is by category. So these are the only two that we really use. We don't really use demolished or temporary objects all that much. But if you do, yeah, as long as you're using show complete, it looks like if you're doing show all, Ryan, it is overriding existing. So that's probably what's happening is you have it set to show all, and then anything which was created on a previous phase is showing up as overridden with that gray. So yeah, change it from show all to show complete, and you should be good.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Hey Luke.
Yeah.
Could you check the interior hinged one-panel doors, the new ones? Because when I load them in, the trim seems to try to escape from the doorway. And it doesn't look like that in the actual family, so I don't know what's up.
If Carl L. is on the call, he might be able to address that more directly, but I think I know we were trying to build in trim so that on the interior doors we could have trim on both sides of the wall, but because of the way that walls host, or doors hosting walls, you can only say align for one of them.
It's on the...
And then the other one should be determined by an offset parameter. Although
well,
I'm not sure if that's actually true.
This is Carl Lorenz. It's the trim should stick to the wall nicely on the hinge side, no matter what, and the other side is determined by the standard jam depth for that interior door, unless it's being hosted in a wall that's thicker.
Well, it's staying on the wall. It's just that it's moving up. like it's like 4 or 5 inches off the edge of the door. So there's like a big space in there that shouldn't be there.
Okay. You know, Carl, I don't think I've moved over those interior door families that you had worked on over into standard yet. I think there were a couple of issues that still needed to be worked out, and I don't remember what those are off the top of my head. But yeah, Noah, we'll look at those with the new door families and make sure that that's not happening.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Hey Luke, while we're talking about doors, the Baker project, which was taken from the balanced seed model, had a lot of issues when we reloaded doors for like tagging and elevation. It would tag a door that wasn't shown, like it would tag behind it.
I mean, it won't tag something that isn't cut in the view, and I don't think it'll tag it if it's not visible in view.
Well, that was the issue we were having, was that, like, I'd be tagging, like, an entrance door, and it's like the gliding door tag from the other side was the one that was showing. It was really bizarre. So you had to, like, manually go through and hide a bunch of things.
Well, are you using the tag all?
No.
Or
No.
tag individual?
Tagging individual.
That's really weird. Okay, yeah, if you said it's on Baker?
Yeah, and the operable hinge graphic is showing through the wall for doors that weren't hidden. So, like, you would just have extra, like, you know, dashed lines showing up. And we realized it was from doors that weren't, like, visible in the elevation.
Okay,
So,
if you could send me a page that's happening on, I'll take a look and try and figure it out.
we hit them all. Yeah. It went out at midnight last night, so we just hit them all. We didn't leave it.
Okay. Well, do you remember which page it was happening on? Because I can duplicate the view and unhide everything and sort of take a look at it.
All of the exterior elevations.
All of them. Okay. All right. I will take a look at that. And for these sorts of things, if you could email Revit managers with these issues, and then we will put it on the issue tracking spreadsheet so that myself and Andrew and Michael can address these sorts of things and have a central place to track them, that would be so nice. Okay, that sounds like end of meeting silence. All right, thanks guys. Talk to you next week. Email Revit managers if you need anything.
Thanks, Luke.
Thanks, Luke. Bye guys.